When did you first then start taking a direct interest in music? In other words, you know, you participating in it?
Well, I was in bands, you know, but it was more or less just a reason to get out of the house. I mean, I was in a band when I was 14, 15 years old called the Crepe Soul. Me and a black guy sang, you know, Sam and Dave stuff, and James Brown, and James and Bobby Purified, and stuff like that. And, you know, we'd play at colleges and, you know, fraternities and high school dances, and every now and then we'd play at a bar, you know, but we were really too young to be playing at those places.
Right.
But, you know, that's when I first joined a band, but you know, any idea of, you know, making a career out of it, because, you know, really, growing up in a town of 14,000 people, which is how many people live in the city I live in, you know, rock stars or people that made records or people in movies, they were really from outer space. You know, you just couldn't imagine, I don't know, you couldn't imagine, you name it, coming into the gas station saying, hey, can you change the tires on my car? It just wouldn't happen, you know. Right. They were romantic figures, you know. I lived in a room about as big as this right here. When you know, I got married when I was 17 years old, and I had a kid. And we just sold everything we had to get money together. You know, we sold all our albums, sold, you know, I sold my guitars, and so we just like raised $300 or $400 and made a demo tape. Of course, nobody wanted that, and so we just, you know, repeated the process until we found somebody that was interested in making a record with us. Of course, that person wasn't really that great, but you know, my whole career, and I've always maintained, has always been in baby steps. And you know, when you first start out, you're anxious for things to happen, and you don't have a lot of patience. But at my age of 34, I realized that patience is a very important thing, and lucky for me that it's worked out, at least in the United States, that everything for me has been baby steps, because it's taken me quite some time to become the songwriter that I am, and I think it's a very positive thing. You know, and I've always maintained that everybody's a songwriter given the opportunity. You know, the reason I've become the type of songwriter I am is that I've had the luxury of having 10, 12, 15 years to do nothing but. You know, you've got to learn who you are and what you want to say in a song in that amount of time. I mean, if you listen to my earlier records, I was completely floundering. I was just a teenage kid writing about you know, his frustrations. But now I feel that I understand that the smallest victories are the biggest victories in songwriting. Well, you know, it's funny. I've got a friend named Larry McMurtry who writes books, and him and I speak about a lot about writing. And you know, what the writer writes while he's thinking it, and what what the people perceive, are really so far away from each other most of the time that it's really almost foreign to me when I speak to people about my songs, because what I intended a lot of times is not what they're getting, and I always maintain that if that is happening, then I'm not doing my job very well, because the object of the exercise is to connect with people and express different feelings and different emotions and different thoughts and points of view, and be able to connect with you so that you get exactly what I mean. But I think that because Larry is like one of the greatest novel writers alive right now, and he says he's never been able to do that, and he's 50-some years old. Right. So, but to me, that's what I'm ultimately shooting for, is to be able to write songs that connect with as many people as possible. When I write a song, I want to make sure that if you play guitar, you can play it. I don't want to, like, you know, be acrobatic about the chord changes or the drum parts. Simplicity to me is like the key to everything, because what good is this music if you can't do it? You know, if a kid learned how to play guitar, or a guy coming home who works 9 to 5 can't come home and pick up an electric guitar, acoustic guitar, and go da 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 da. Anybody can play that, even I can play. Right. You know, so I think that's important, that people be able to use music and do with what do with it what they want to do with it. Doing things, like I said, for money, to be rich and to be famous. And most people, I think, realize that, you know, there's a lot of positive things about being famous, but at the same time, it's a pretty give and take type situation. There are a lot of times that, you know, you would like to be anonymous when you go in places. And you know, this is easy for me to say, I guess. When you got a lot of dough don't mean much, you know, because I can pay my bills and I can do what I want to do. But You know, basically happiness takes place here, and I find a lot more happiness in if I write a good song than looking at the kind of car I drove up here in, or the type of house I live in. You know, because it's like anything else. A guy gets pretty used to the way his girlfriend looks, and he sees another girl who he thinks is prettier, but he forgot how pretty he thought this girl was when he first met her. A guy gets used to like riding around in you know, a nice car. A guy gets used to riding around a junky car, you know what I mean? So all these things, you know, any material things, anything you got to pick up, you know, they don't, ultimately and finally don't mean a hell of a lot to you. So if you're, you know, if a guy wants to get in a band because he wants to be rich, or I want to be famous, I think that a lot of people start out that way, and I also think that a lot of people, when they become that way, become very dissatisfied and very unhappy, and therefore you find drug abuse, and you find, you know, people just, it's not what it's cracked up to be. And so where I find happiness is learning how to write songs and being able to relate to people. That's what you do it for, I think.
Well, the fact that you were forced to go out from your home territory to sort of, you know, like to New York, to LA, and then to London, and then everywhere. The fact that you still stay and live, that's your home base,
right,
bewilders some people.
Well, it bewilders me sometimes too, you know. But you know, I've been every place in the world that there is to be, and you know, like I said earlier, you have, I mean, all that really matters is your friends and your family, and that's it. And my friends and family are in a small town in the Midwest, and you know, I can call up Mark Ripley and say, "Hey, Mark, what's happening? Let's do this." And I don't got to be John Mellencamp, the guy who makes records. He don't expect me to act or behave any certain way. He just known me since day one, since we were born together, right? And so therefore, you don't have to talk about the music business. I don't have to talk about, you know, things that I'm doing. He doesn't really care about that. He's more interested in, like, you know, what, do you want to go ride motorcycles, or do you want to go do this, or, you know. So he's a friend, you know, and I don't make friends real easy, and I look at the music business, and I look at what goes on there and what these, quote, rock star people do, and if it makes them happy, fine, but it's just not a lifestyle that I'm particularly interested in pursuing right now. Rock and roll has always been something that made me feel good. That's the whole thing, you know, that's the greatest thing about rock and roll, is that particularly if the music has soul, I think that the listener can become part of that soul and become very, you know, I mean, I don't know how many people get up in the morning and the first thing they do is put on a rock record. Yeah. For no other reason than just the energy that it puts out, and I think that's great. But like I said, I particularly like music that has soul to it. That's why I don't like, you know, a lot of electronical instruments, because they don't have any soul to them. There's no feeling involved in there. It's just notes, boom, 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 you know. And a lot of notes necessarily doesn't create a good feeling in me, right? I like songs that, you know, you know, that I feel good, you know. I like that stuff. It makes me feel the way that the singer intended for you to feel. I'd hate to think that, you know, we're all, you know, that I'm just a satellite of what came before. I hope that I have a little bit of input of what's going on musically for American music that makes it my own. I just, you know, it'd be a pretty sad situation if all I ever did was imitate what had come before. But let's face it, man, that stuff is great.